All right, now to that extraordinary rebuke from top military leaders pushing back against the talk of imposing martial law that's reportedly swirling inside the Trump White House. The Secretary of the Army and the Army Chief of Staff having to release a joint statement saying in part, quote, there is no role for the U.S. military in determining the outcome of an American election. It is remarkable that military officials are even having to say this, but that is the response after multiple reports. Trump asked about the option on Friday during an Oval Office meeting about overturning the election. Trump says the reporting is wrong. One person attending Friday's meeting was Trump's former national security advisor, Michael Flynn. Now, the day before that meeting, this is what Flynn said. Watch.
He could immediately, on his order, seize every single one of these machines around the country on his order. Within the swing states, if he wanted to, he could take military capabilities and basically rerun an election in each of those states. I mean, it's not unprecedented. I mean, these people out there talking about martial law, it's like it's something that we've never done. Martial law has been instituted 64 times.
That is a former U.S. general calling for martial law to rerun an election in this country. Joining me now is retired Army General Barry McCaffrey, a former National Security Council member. Thank you so much, General McCaffrey, for joining us. I'm curious to get your thoughts, first of all. How alarming do you find this talk of martial law?
We've never heard anything like it since 1860. I was personally horrified watching Mike Flynn, who was a terrific intelligence officer during the War on Terror, who now acting in a demented fashion, seizing ballot boxes, the armed forces in charge of unilaterally conducting elections in swing states. This is thuggery. This is third world behavior. By the way, the armed forces will never in any way take part. But what we don't want to do is find out what happens when the commander-in-chief tells the acting Secretary of Defense to pull something like this off. So I think what we get back to is the responsibility of Republican senators in particular is going to be heavy in history if they don't go to the president in public and back him down from this criminal conversation.
General, what do you think is the thinking right now among top military officials? I understand your point about they will never do this, but at the end of the day, what happens when given the order, as you mentioned, because they will be given the order and they will be then tormented between following an order they may think is illegal and having to resign. So what do you think they're thinking?
Well, there'll be no torment whatsoever. If they get an order that is clearly illegal, they have lawyers, both military and civilian, who will rule on it. This would be patently unconstitutional. They simply won't do it. But then the question becomes, will the Congress get engaged? Will the Supreme Court get engaged? Will Trump start firing generals until he finds somebody that would move?
Right.
By the way, I might add, that acting Secretary of Defense, a retired lieutenant colonel, will bear a heavy responsibility. The chairman of the JCS has no command authority over the armed forces. Two civilians do, Trump and Chris Miller. So we need the Senate, Republicans in particular, to step up, and not in private, but in public, and say, we're not going there with you.
Hey, I'm Ari Melber from MSNBC. You can see more of our videos right here, or better yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel below. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate that.